Shalom, making another video. This is specifically for the Israelites, the Moors, basically the Americans as described in the 1828 dictionary. I'm not excluding anyone. I'm going to let the definitions and the information include or exclude based on truth, if there is any exclusion for the term American. So my intent is always in good faith. My actions are in good faith with the intent to tell the truth. So in doing so, that's my disclaimer to let you know I'm not after anyone. I'm not trying to offend anyone, but the truth offend those who has an agenda to deceive. So by me telling the truth according to what I'm about to show you right now, you can look up yourself. Many of you have heard these things before, but it's always good as more truth comes out. It's always good to go back over truth so that we won't forget to say, let's for instance, the Most Highest oftentimes says things over and over again to us because he calls us stiff-necked, hard of hearing. So we always looking to find the newest thing. So that's what the movement is about today. It's good to hear the newest thing, but sometimes it's good to reflect back on the foundation of what has been said. So you won't let the newest thing take you away from the foundation of what it's about in the first place. So it all comes together for the good. Alright, so by me saying that, I'm going to go ahead and once again read this dictionary definition of American, in which I am. American pertaining to America. And America is a continent, south and north. American, noun, a native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of the Europeans born in America. Okay, we all heard that before. Okay, tried to pull up originally. I've done it before, but I'll just go to origin, ancestry, race, from Old French origin, race, and directly from Latin originum, nominative, origo, a rise, commencement, beginning. And that sound in the background is the water. This is channel I use. It's called Relaxation Water Sounds. Let's see. Origin, race, and directly from Latin origum, nominative, origo, a rise, commencement, beginning, source, descendant, lineage, birth, from stem, arise, rise, get up, appear above the horizon, become visible, be born, be descended, receive life, figuratively come forth. The same way that the Hamashiach said he was from the beginning. He said he proceeded forth and came from the Father. That's his origin. Before he took on flesh, his origin was with the Father. He said he proceeded forth. The origin was he proceeded forth and came from the Father. So he become visible, be born, be descended, receive life, figuratively come forth, take origin, proceed, start. Okay, to rise, lift, raise. Let's see. Original, now the description of origin is original, first in time, earliest, directive, from Latin. See, because basically it told you what origin was, and I know you were very intelligent, but I'm just using this on the camera. The adjective is to describe the noun, so it is describing what the origin is. First time, earliest, and directly from the Latin originalis, from origine, nominative origo, beginning, source, birth, to rise, origin. The first reference is in the original sin, innate depravity in man's nature, supposed to be inherited from Adam. That's going. Let's see. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna try to go ahead and do this now. Maybe you'll be able to see it. Not allowing me to pull up originally. That's odd because I've done it before. All right, no problem. So you got that. Just getting rid of what I don't need, what I've already talked about. Let's see. Okay, adjective, word used to qualify, limit, or define a noun or a noun-like part of speech. Late 14th century, short for noun, adjective, from Old French, adjective, 14th century, from Latin, adjectivum, that is added to the noun, neuter, adjectives, added, past particle of adducere, to throw to, fling at, throw or place a thing near, especially add, in addition, add by way of increase, from add, plus combining from asir, to throw, pyroot, yea, to throw, impel. Okay. Alright, that's good enough. Let's see. Alright, so now we know that the American, the copper-colored people found here by the Europeans. And it goes into, later on it says now applied to the children born to the Europeans. Then we can go into, see, that's another deceptive practice, because those who know that the original Europeans were so-called black people. Because the so-called black man was the first man on the earth. But later, those who are called Europeans today, who are called, that the Moors call Albions, are in place of the original people in many instances in history books that was created by them, just for consideration. Because that's, that's not me saying that, that's out there. It's the truth. Alright, so let's go somewhere else. I'm going to go here to the ancient Hebrew or African American. So they call the American so-called Negroes, they call them African Americans, they've called them Indians, they call them Native Americans, they've called them Moors, Israelites. Well, they ain't called them Israelites. They knew we are Israelites, but they didn't call them that. That's one thing they didn't call them. Because that's just now really coming out. That's been known, but it's really coming out as a whole now. That all is beginning to know this. And like I said, this is no disrespect to the Israelis, because actually we're not calling ourselves Israelis, so we're not saying we are them. and I'll get to that in a minute. But I've done it before, but I'll show you. It's on the record. Now, let's see this. This here was a image. Hopefully you can see it. Okay. Alright, that was an image. Have we all seen that before? I-14A. Free Blacks of Israel Hill. And we already see that black, and I'm going to get into that. Black is basically a adjective, a description. Many of these terms that they call the so-called Negro are actually, that's what they are. Adjectives. Just like if you watch a football game, I'm just using that, you can say, man, that team sure was good. What team you talking about? Oh, the one with the barrel on the side. Oh, okay, I thought you was talking about the other team that had the red skin on their helmet. See, that's descriptive. Descriptive is so you can know who you're talking about. The description is not who they are, but that's just describing who you're talking about. So when you say the black man or the such and such, you describing who you're talking about, but that's not who he is. That's not his nationality. That's somebody's. You can describe anything however you want to describe it. That don't mean that's what it is. So right here, you see the Free Blacks of Israel Hill. The Most High, he said certain things would happen, but he didn't create you to be a slave. But that's showing you who they are. It says the Israelites and other free African Americans. See, Israelites, they didn't give them that color of law term. And then here, you can see, this is the American Webster Dictionary 1828. Maybe Webster didn't know this. I'm just giving the benefit of the doubt, but I'm quite sure he probably did know, because they know a lot of stuff. But he told the truth. But at the same time, whenever anybody tells a story, sometimes they put in what's the term? Interjections to turn it the way they want to turn it. Israelites do it too. Moors do it too. So I'm not saying that he's the only one that done it. That's human nature. Human nature always wants to paint something the way they want it to paint it. But the truth is going to come when it's not going to be turned a certain way. The truth is just going to be the truth. It's not going to be based on somebody's interpretation or somebody's twisting of the truth to fit the way they want it to fit. The truth got to be the truth. Every race or nation of people do the same thing. Race, noun. Latin radix, radius, having the same original. This word coincides in origin with rod, ray, radiate, etc. 1. The lineage of a family or a continued series of descendants from a parent who is called the stock. A race is the series of the descendants indefinitely. And see, a lot of times too, you just consider that when certain words here is said, like stock, family, different things, that was the original term, the way it was supposed to be. But then certain men has changed words to fit or to entrap people. See, even in the scripture, the Most Highest describes himself as black and his people as black, and aren't you like the Ethiopians unto me? things of that nature, because people didn't do that stuff back then. Because of the cunningness of certain men and women, they've changed the definitions to fit, like for entrapment. Oh, what you mean by family? What do you mean by black? Oh, are you talking about a man? Or are you talking about a corporation? Or what? Are you talking? What do you mean? See, it didn't mean all that stuff. You didn't have to go through all that at one time. But man has done that through his craftiness. So I'm taking these words here to mean what they mean back then, you know. But the adjective is always an adjective. It's description. The lineage of a family or continued series of descendants from a parent who is called the stock. A race is the series of these descendants indefinitely. Thus, all mankind, we just heard about the sin of Adam a minute ago. Thus, all mankind called the race of Adam. Then it says the Israelites are of the race of Abraham and Jacob. Thus, we speak of a race of kings, the race of Clovis or Charlemagne, a race of nobles, etc. And then he threw in an interjection. Hence, the long race of Alban fathers come. Now, I've looked up Charlemagne. Charlemagne was not a Albion. He was actually, they described him as a Moor or an Israelite. And that's what he's describing him as. He's describing him as an Israelite. So he's saying an Israelite, the royal Israelites. The Most High's people are royal Israelites. Tribe of Judah. Heritage of, of King David, known down. But then he threw in the interjection, hence, like, look up, hence, the long race of Albion fathers came. See, that's not true, if we tell the truth. All right. So we see that the Israelites are a race of Abraham and Jacob. Thus, since Jacob is 12 tribes, particular, when you talk about the kings of Israel has kings throughout all out. But then when you speak of Judah, you're talking about David. And then that's why I always throw in. That's why I always include Ruth, because you can't say that Judah is not the so-called black man or so-called African American or so-called Negro, because Ruth is a Moabitess, and the scripture put that in there for a reason. Constantly, Ruth the Moabitess, and Ruth the Moabitess, and Ruth the Moabitess, because the Most High knew people was gonna start lying. You can't lie about that. Now, that's why I always say I have the blood flow of Ruth running through my veins, but I'm not a Moabite, I'm an Israelite. I'm an American, de jure. A generation, okay, we've seen that. Then we have Charlemagne. It said King of the Franks. That's what they had in there. Literally, this is from the Etymology Dictionary. Literally called the Great. So, Charlemagne was a king. He was a king in Europe. Talking about the early Europeans, the so-called black ones. That's who Charlemagne was. He wasn't Albion. He was a Israelite. And some people interchange that with Moor. Then here, this is the online etymology dictionary, and it's, like I said, one day I'm not going to have to keep apologizing. Well, I'm not apologizing, but one day I'm not going to have to keep having to apologize or have to make a distinction. One day, the Most High will just have it where when you say Israelite, you know, you won't have to give a disclaimer behind it. I'm not saying I'm an Israelite or I'm not saying we are Israeli. We're Israelites. Mid 14th century, a Jew, one of the people of the ancient Israel, a descendant of Israel or Jacob. From Latin, Israeliti. From Greek, Israelitis. From Israel. Then it says, see Israel. Okay, went on down there. Israel. Old English Israel, the Jewish people, the Hebrew nation. See, this Israel right here is the ones that are living over there in the land called Israel. That was created in 1948. Old Israel. Old English Israel, the Jewish people, the Hebrew nation, from Latin Israel, from Greek, from Hebrew Israel. He that striveth with God. Genesis 32:28. Symbolic proper name conferred on Jacob and extended to his descendants from Sarah. He fought, contended, plus El, God, as the name of the independent Jewish state in the Middle East is attested from 1948. See, they telling the story, but from a religious point of view, from a religion. That's what an Israeli is. I mean, I read, okay, now let me go there. It says, compare Israeli and Israelite. They told me to do that for, clarification, so that's what I'm going to do. Israeli, noun, citizen of the state of Israel. 1948, from Israel plus Hebrew, national designation suffix I, also used in English as an adjective, 1948. It distinguishes the citizens of modern state from the ancient people who had been known in English since 14th century as Israelites. See, Israelite. See, I just read you Israelite. A Jew, one of the people of the ancient Israel. So when you start saying ancient, original, anything, you're talking about the so-called black man, the so-called Negro, so-called African American, all these so-called things, but they're really Israelites. The Romans called the Israelites Moors. The Most High called the Israelites his people. And the Romans called the Israelites Moors as a description of who the Israelites are. Hebrew adjective, describing who the Israelites are. Corresponding Hebrew, Ibri, and Israelite. So when you say Ibri, you're not talking about an Israeli, you're talking about an Israelite. Traditionally from an ancestral name, Eber, but probably literally one from the other side, perhaps in reference to the river Euphrates, or perhaps simply signifying immigrant from Eber, region on the other or opposite side. The initial H has restored in English from 16th century as a noun. The Hebrew language, late 14th century, a reference to persons originally a biblical Jew Israelite. Ancient Hebrews, African Americans. Would a real Hebrew stand up? Please stand up. Do African Americans truly know their history? Do they? This is from the ancient Hebrews. You can look that up online. Ancient Hebrew or African American. Do they truly know their true heritage? What about where their ancestors come from? These are some of the many questions left unanswered. You see, a lot of people try to say, okay, you come from Africa. See, that's another game they play, and I've learned that from the Moors. This whole continent, and I knew this before I even heard from the Moors. This whole continent was actually one landmass where all of these people after the flood came from. But then it was separated segregated, hypothecated, and then people start claiming stuff and then changing names and places and different things, and now the truth is coming out, so all those lies have been washed away. The Most High said stuff for a reason. He said, aren't you like the Ethiopians unto me? He said, aren't you like the Ethiopians unto me? Let's go to the root word of Ethiopian. It's Ethiop, noun. Late 14th century, from Latin Aethiopes, Ethiopian, Negro, from Greek Atheos. Oh, that proves right there they're Africans. No, watch what they say though. Long supposed and popular etymology, because Bill Cosby even said it one time. He said, no, I'm an Ethiopian. So you can call yourself a lot of stuff and you're still talking about yourself. For descriptive purposes. Etymology to be from Athenian to burn, plus ops, face. Burnt face. Compare fiery looking, later sunburned. Who the Hammered Ethiopians were is a matter of doubt. The poet elsewhere speaks of two divisions of these people. One dwelling near the rising. They say the sun rises in the east. And the other near the setting of the sun. And they say the sun sets in the west. We're on the west. He's not talking about a land here. He's talking about a people. And these Ethiops were from both places. Talking about all the same people, the copper colored people. One on the east, one on the west. One where the sun rises and one where the sun sets. Both having embrowned visages from their proximity to that of luminary, and both leading a blissful existence, because living amid a flood of light and as a natural concomitant of a blissful existence, blameless and pure and free from every kind of moral defilement. So that sounds like the people of the Most High. Charles Anthon, note to the first 6 books of Homer Iliad, 1878. Now, let's go to Abyssinia, old name for Ethiopia. 1630s, from modern Latin Abyssinia, from Arabic Habasha, the name for the region, said to be from the Amharic Habish mixed and Arabic Habash mixture, in reference to the different races dwelling there. See, that's talking about the actual land that they call Ethiopia. The first one, Ethiop, was describing the people in 2 different places. That's referred to as, aren't you like the Ethiopians unto me? Oh, you Ethiops from the west, aren't you like the Ethiops from the east unto me? Y'all all look alike. All, burnt face. In reference to the different races dwelling there in 1920s, 30s. And he's not talking about somebody burnt your face. He's talking about because you're dark, you're copper colored, just like all these other definitions say. You're dark skin, you're copper colored for descriptive purposes. You're black, descriptive purposes. Popular is a slang poem for the parting salutations. Okay. Then black, adjective, Old English, black, absolutely dark, absorbing all light, the color of soot or coal. Excuse me. Something in my mouth. From Proto-Germanic, black as. That's funny right there. It's not funny, but it is kind of, look what it says. Old English, Blake, absolutely dark, absorbing all light, the color of soot or coal. From Proto-Germanic, black ass. It said black ass, but it said black, sounds like it said black ass. Black ass, burned. Source also Old Norse, blacker, dark. Old High German, blah, black. Swedish, black, ink. Dutch, blacken, to burn. Pie, beleg, to burn, gleam, shine, flash. Source also Greek, pelagian, to burn, scorch. Latin, flagrare, to blaze, glow, burn, root, bell, to shine, flash, burn. The same root produced Old English black, bright, shining, glittering, pale, the connecting notions being perhaps fire, bright, and burn, dark, perhaps absent of color. There is nothing more variable than the significance of the word designating color. Wedgwood, the usual Old English word for black, was swart. See swart. If I remember, I'll come back and see swart. According to OED in me, it is often doubtful whether black means black, dark, or pale, colorless, wan, livid, used of dark-skinned people in Old English. Of coffee with nothing added, attested by 1976. Black drop, 1823, was a liquid preparation of opium used medically. Black fly, 1600, was used, excuse me, man, I had to, it said something really did fly in my throat, trying to stop the message. Excuse me. Of coffee with nothing added, tested by 1796, black drop, 1823, was a liquid preparation of opium used medically. Okay. Black Prince, as a nickname of the eldest son of Edward III, is attested by, see there go again, they call him a Black Prince. Edward III is attested by 1560, exact significance is uncertain. When they start talking about the uncertain, they know they're just trying to keep you from knowing what they're talking about. But the truth is out now. Meaning fierce, terrible, wicked is from the late 14th century. Figurative senses often come from the notion of without life, moral, or spiritual.